Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to take you through a deep literary analysis of Winter Dreams by F. Scott Fitzgerald and explore how the story connects with The Wars by Timothy Finley. Even though these two works are set in different times and places, 1920s America and World War I Canada, they share profound themes about ambition, class, illusion, and the painful transition from youth to adulthood. We'll go through key themes, literary devices, symbols, and finally, examine the story through three different literary theories: Marxist, feminist, and psychoanalytical. Each theory will help us understand the deeper meaning behind Fitzgerald's writing and will end with a connection to the wars, showing how both authors depict the tragedy of lost ideals. F. Scott Fitzgerald is one of the most prominent voices of the Jazz Age, a term he actually coined. He often wrote about the American dream, wealth, and disillusionment. Fitzgerald's life mirrored much of what he wrote. He achieved fame and wealth, but his life was filled with personal tragedy, alcoholism, and a crumbling marriage. Winter Dreams was published in 1922, before The Great Gatsby, and many critics see it as a blueprint for that novel. Dexter Green, like Jay Gatsby, is a self made man who romanticizes a woman as a symbol of status and success, only to end in heartbreak. Fitzgerald's work often critiques the hollowness behind the American dream. Winter Dreams follows Dexter Green, the son of a middle class grocer who becomes obsessed with his wealth and status. As a young caddy, he meets Judy Jones, a wealthy and beautiful girl. He quits his job rather than serve the rich and vows to become successful. Over the years, he builds a fortune and re encounters Judy. Through he wins her affection temporarily, she is emotionally unavailable and capricious. Eventually, Dexter learns that she has settled down with another man and lost her beauty. This realization shatters him. Fitzgerald writes, "That thing is gone, it doesn't come back." This line encapsulates the story's mood, the irreversible loss of dreams, youth, and idealism. Class is one of the most visible forces in Winter Dreams. Dexter feels the divide early on. He wanted not association with glittering things and glittering people. He wanted the glittering things themselves. This quote shows how his desire is not just to be included, but to fully own the lifestyle of the wealthy. Yet, no matter how rich he becomes, he never truly belongs to that world. Judy, the ultimate symbol of upper class privilege, is unattainable emotionally and socially. Dexter is a perfect example of someone chasing the American dream: wealth, love, and upward mobility. But Fitzgerald shows how this dream is fundamentally flawed. Dexter achieves wealth but not fulfillment. He idealizes Judy, not just as a person, but as a symbol of success. There was something else in the world, something that shimmered and sparkled and blackened. Yet, the shimmering dream fades. When he learns Judy has become an ordinary housewife, it's not just the loss of her beauty that devastates him, it's the collapse of everything she represented. His story hits hard when it comes to growing up and facing the truth that life doesn't always turn out the way we imagined. At the start, Dexter's full of ambition and hope. He believes in love, success, and the idea that he can control his future. But over time, that confidence slowly fades. By the end, he's emotionally drained and filled with regret. Fitzgerald writes, "The gates were closed, the sun was gone down." That line isn't just poetic, it's heartbreaking. It marks the end of Dexter's youthful optimism. The more time passes, the more Dexter starts to realize some things, like love, identity, and happiness, can't just be earned through hard work. They're messier and harder to hold on to. This theme is super relatable, especially for people our age, because it captures that moment when you stop seeing the world through rose colored glasses and start to understand that not everything is within your control. Fitzgerald's writing is filled with metaphor and rich imagery. He uses juxtaposition to portray Judy Jones as both angelic and destructive, capturing Dexter's obsession. For example, Judy is described as both radiant and cruel, beautiful yet emotionally hollow. This shows the contrast between Dexter and how he sees her and who she really is. Foreshadowing hints early on at Dexter's heartbreak, like when he suddenly quits caddying after seeing Judy. That single moment sets his life direction, and the reader already senses that this romanticization will not end well. There's also deep irony. Dexter gets what he thinks he wants: wealth, and even Judy's attention, but he ends up feeling empty and lost. Fitzgerald builds this irony carefully, layering it through dialogue, narrative tone, and Dexter's shifting emotional states. Even though Winter Dreams is written in prose, it reads like poetry in so many ways. Fitzgerald uses alliteration, like in the phrase, glittering things and glittering people. It sounds so smooth and dreamy, and it reflects how shiny and exciting Dexter thinks the rich lifestyle is. He also uses repetition, especially with the phrase winter dreams. This phrase keeps showing up to remind us how deeply those dreams live in Dexter's mind, even when they start falling apart. Fitzgerald's imagery is also super powerful. The way he describes the seasons, the settings, and Judy herself makes the story feel alive. It helps us feel the emotions, the hope, the longing, and the heartbreak as if we're living with Dexter. Fitzgerald's poetic style doesn't just make the story pretty, it makes it hit harder. It gives the whole thing a dreamy, emotional vibe that sticks with you even after the story ends. The story is full of rich symbolism, and each symbol adds depth to Dexter's emotional and social journey. First, the changing seasons are a central metaphor throughout the story. Winter, in particular, is a symbolic of emotional coldness, detachment, and the death of dreams. Dexter's life mirrors the seasons. Spring and summer bring hope and romance, while winter brings loss and regret. The title itself, Winter Dreams, suggests dreams that are beautiful but destined to fade. Next, Judy Jones herself functions as a living symbol. She represents everything Dexter aspires to: wealth, status, beauty, and a life of ease. However, like Mirage, she disappears when approached. Her charm is superficial, and her affections are fleeting. As Dexter learns, Judy is not a stable foundation for real happiness. She is an illusion, a projection of his own desires. The golf course is another important symbol. It's not just a setting, it's a place where social hierarchies are made visible. Dexter sees Judy there for the first time and quits his job as a caddy, symbolizing his rejection of the working class life. The golf course is a world reserved for the elite, and it marks the beginning of Dexter's obsession with upward mobility. Finally, water recurs in key moments. Water often symbolizes emotional depth, change, or purification, but in Winter Dreams, it also represents the delusion of identity. Dexter's dreams melt like ice. In the final scene, the imagery of things slipping away, of something lost forever, recalls water's transient and elusive nature. Water, like Judy, cannot be grasped. It reflects to us what we want, but it never gives back. Marxist literary theory focuses on class conflict, the power of money, and how economic structures influence people's lives. When we apply this lens to Winter Dreams, we can see how Fitzgerald criticizes the capitalist system that promises happiness through wealth, but ultimately leads to emptiness. Dexter starts his life as the son of a grocer, working class, and becomes obsessed with entering the elite class. He quits his caddying job not just out of pride, but because he's disgusted by serving the wealthy. He wants to be one of them. Fitzgerald writes, he wanted not association with glittering things and glittering people. He wanted the glittering things themselves. The word things is important. Dexter doesn't desire relationships or meaning. He wants possessions, even people. Through this lens, Judy is commodified. Dexter sees her as a status symbol. Her beauty, wealth, and upper class connections make her valuable. But when he finds out that she's aged and settled down, his dream collapses. The dream was gone. Something had been taken from him. Marxist theory helps us understand that Dexter's emotional downfall isn't just about heartbreak. It's about how capitalism convinces people that success equals love, status equals happiness. Fitzgerald's story is a critique of how class structures trap individuals in cycles of desire, illusion, and disappointment. Feminist theory examines literature through the lens of gender, how women are portrayed, whether they have the agency, and how societal norms affect their roles. In Winter Dreams, Judy Jones is a fascinating and problematic character when viewed this way. On the surface, Judy has power. She is stunningly beautiful and seems to control every man around her. Fitzgerald describes her as extraordinary and says men were dizzy with admiration of her. She flirts, teases, and chooses her lovers freely. This makes her appear liberated. But a feminist reading reveals that her power is limited and rooted entirely in her beauty. She is never given depth, thoughts, or independence outside her role as an object of male desire. We only see her through Dexter's eyes. She is never truly a subject in her own right. When Judy ages and loses her charm, she is described as a poor woman who had lost her looks. Her fate is portrayed as kind of punishment, a tragedy that reflects how society discards women when they no longer meet beauty standards. Fitzgerald critiques this dynamic subtly, but the story still reinforces it. Judy is not allowed to grow, she only serves as a fantasy. A feminist theory helps us question whose voice is prioritized and what happens when a woman's value is based solely on how she appears to men. Psychoanalytic theory, rooted in the work of Freud and others, explores how unconscious desires, fears, and internal conflicts shape characters' actions. It often looks at repression, fixation, and projection, and all these appear in Dexter's relationship with Judy. From a young age, Dexter forms what Freud might call an ego ideal, a mental image of who he wants to be. Judy becomes central to that image. She is perfect, beautiful, rich, everything he aspires to. But she's not really a person to Dexter. She's a projection, a fantasy. He says he loves her, but he doesn't really know her. When he learns that she's married and lost her beauty, he breaks down. Not only because Judy herself, but because the illusion has died. Fitzgerald writes, "Long ago there was something in me, but now that thing is gone. That thing is the emotional construct that gave his life meaning." Psychoanalytical theory would suggest that Dexter is grieving not Judy, but his idealized self, the version of him that Judy validated. He never truly loved her. He loved what she represented within his own psyche: validation, worth, and success. Once she could no longer fulfill that role, his emotional foundation collapsed. While Winter Dreams focuses on emotional disillusionment and class based ambition, The Wars by Timothy Findley explores how larger historical and social forces, especially war, destroy individual innocence and idealism. Dexter and Robert both begin their stories full of purpose. Dexter wants status and love. Robert wants to do what's right. Both end broken. Dexter emotionally, Robert physically and spiritually. Dexter says, "I cannot cry, I do not cry," a statement of numbness that echoes Robert's own emptiness as described in The Wars. He was alive and not alive. Both stories ultimately suggest that the forces we dream of mastering, love, honor, class, beauty, often master us instead. Through their protagonist's downfall, Fitzgerald and Findley offer sobering critiques of the world we live in and the illusions we carry. In conclusion, Winter Dreams and The Wars show how individuals are shaped and often shattered by the dreams they chase. Fitzgerald and Finley use powerful language, imagery, and symbolism to reveal the emotional and societal forces that guide us. Through themes of class, ambition, gender, and psychological struggle, both stories remind us that dreams may dazzle, but they can also destroy. Thank you for listening to my presentation.